Hello and welcome to the Pavilion Gardens. We're here on viewing day, which is Tuesday the 28th, and we'll be open right through till 8 o'clock this evening, and then doors will open again at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So my colleagues have assembled a wonderful cross-section of cars for this sale. Some very historic, very interesting cars, as well as some valuable ones, less valuable, all ages. So in terms of dates, we've got cars from the 1910s all the way through to the 2010s, value from a couple of thousand through to over $500,000. So a wonderful selection. One of the historic highlights is this Lotus Mark VI, and this is actually the prototype for the Mark VI, which was Colin Chapman's first bespoke design. That was the first chassis that he designed from scratch. Previous Lotuses had been, in essence, modified Austin 7 Specials. So that was the first bespoke creation. And funnily enough, this car was involved in an accident in its life, the insurance payout for which was enough to give Lotus financial stability. So in more ways than one, this can be said to be a vital part of Lotus history. It's been owned by the Nern family for the last, since the 1970s, so great pedigree there. And Graham Nern, of course, was famous as the father of the Caterham 7. We've got an Austin Healey 106. Now this is beautifully restored. This is one of those cars that really does fall in line with the argument that buy the best you can afford regardless of the derivative, because the 106 isn't always the most favoured variant of Big Healey, although this is one of the two-seater versions, but it has been beautifully restored. It's a real testament to the craftsman who got that into this condition. Next to it is a Morgan 44 1600. That car's unusual because it was in single ownership for I think 40 odd years, and you can see that it's very much been somebody's labour of love. They've really gone through that car. Another labour of love car. This was restored for the vendor, and I think it was something like 1,000 hours or something that went into it, but I mean, you'd have to check the catalogue for that, but it is beautifully done. It was taken back to a bare shell. I believe it's two former keepers. The chap who restored it is confident it's a low mileage van. I think it's only showing 28,000, something like that. And it's a wonderful, wonderful testament to all the work that's gone into it. Really, that is one of the nicest minivans we've seen or are likely to see. Opposite end of the spectrum speed-wise, you've got two ways of going very quickly. Jaguar XK120 fixed head or the Porsche 911. The XK120 fixed head is one of 195 right-hand drive cars built. It's unusual and notable because it was first owned by Patsy Burt, who's arguably Britain's most successful lady racing driver. This one was later owned by the late Richard Colton, whose collection we sold off in 2015, and he had it built to his own specification for events. So you've got a Rob Beer 3.8 litre engine in there. It's an XK unit, but it's been breathed on, so it's about 260 brake horsepower. Very strong engine, very reliable. That's backed with a Getrag 5-speed gearbox. You've got four-wheel disc brakes, you've got power-assisted rack and pinion steering, you've got an aggressive limited slip diff on the back, you've got uprated strength and suspension. It's just a hell of a thing. Yes, it looks like a 50s sports car, but that drives like something out of the 90s. And actually, I'd be fairly confident it's quicker than this 911, even though that has been competition prepared in the past. So two very, very pretty cars, both iconic. And for me, the Jaguar gets the nod. Still following the British theme, we've got an Alvis TE21. These cars were still essentially coach built. It was a design that was modified by Park Ward from Graba original, and it's very, very elegant car, and they have a good 3-litre straight 6 under there. That one, I believe, is just doubling checking. Yes, it's the 5-speed manual, so still a capable Grand Tourer, and an alternative to an Aston from the same era. Next to us, we've got Jaguar Mark IV, 3.5 litre. These were sometimes known as Wardour Street Bentleys because they had these particularly voluptuous wings, the big headlights, with a 3.5 litre engine. Although you can tell it's very obviously a pre-war design, these were a 100-mile-an-hour car or thereabouts. So elegant beast. This one in particular, I think, has had about £30,000 spent on it recently with Jaguar Specialist CMC at Bridgnorth. Next to it is an Alvis Firefly Coupe. The Alvis little 4-cylinder 1.8 litre engine, but they go better than you would expect, and indeed this particular car was driven to the sale by the vendor, so nothing wrong with that. Jump in it and go. And again, elegant little car, well proportioned, and from a much underrated British manufacturer. Speaking of which, you've got a Daimler DB18 Special Sports. Now these were bodied by Barker. They've got an interesting transverse third seat in them, 2.5 litre straight six, pre-selected gearbox, just an elegant, stylish thing. Although arguably the Delage next to it will take the biscuit for that. This particular car has been restored by the vendor, who is a world-class, award-winning yacht designer, and you can probably tell that from the nautical theme. The woodwork on that car is absolutely stunning. The inlays, the detailing, the curvature achieved, it's just beautiful. Next to that we have a pair of Allards. So we have the L-Type Roadster, 4-seater version. Next to it we have a K2. The K2 has seen some competition usage, so it's got an engine in there that's a 3.9 litre flathead. The L-Type, it's 3.6 litre flathead, and this one's been upgraded with a Moss gearbox just to make it a little easier on sprints and hill climbs. The L-Type's still with its original 3-speed. So those are, Sydney Allard, still the only person to won the Monte Carlo rally in a car of his own design. They were tough, quick cars, making great use of proprietary Ford running gear, except for the ones that went to the States, where they were often fitted with Cadillac engines. From the sort of basic performance to the other end, luxury cars, the two Bentley Mark 6s, an R-Type, which is closely related to the Mark 6. Now this car started life as a standard steel saloon. It was then rebodied as a 2-door fixed head coupe, and then a subsequent keeper decided to turn it from a fixed head coupe into a convertible. So, but that was the joy. Both the Mark 6 and R-Type were designed to take coach work from a variety of coach builders. So yes, you could have them with the standard steel bodies, but you could also have something bespoke made, and this is very much the case with this car. It's just been done out of period. A real rarity is this Vauxhall 25 horsepower GY Wingham Cabriolet. Now, I've never seen one of these before, and I don't think I'll ever see one again. This particular example, I believe there's only 4 or 5 known to still exist, has been subject to a restoration at a cost of an eye-watering £230,000. So that is just a hell of a car, really. Big 25 horsepower straight 6 engine, roomy 4-seater, 4-door, pillarless convertible body, nicely engineered. These trademark Vauxhall scallops to the bonnet, and just a hell of a thing, and very rare. Next to it, complete change of pace, a Mercedes-Benz 230 SL, a Pagoda. Now this particular car, a right-hand drive car, it was restored a number of years ago by Silchester Garage, who used to specialise in these when they were in operation. It has been featured on the front cover of Classic and Sports Car magazine. It's finished in this period Pagoda colour, horizon blue, which is just stunning. And that is just a nice thing. Been gone through, horizon blue with the dark blue leather, power steering, very usable, classic, and just nicely detailed all the way through. A car that's arguably almost too good to use is this 1964 Jaguar E-Type 4.2 fixed head coupe. This has not long emerged from a bare metal restoration by King Edward Classic Cars of Grimsby. It was the late proprietor Jeff Thompson loved his Jaguars. It wasn't his everyday business, but he used to put a huge amount of time and effort into restoring these cars. So this one in particular, I saw this being restored over a number of years. I saw it on a rotisserie spit. I saw the metalwork being redone and everything through, and sadly Jeff's no longer with us, but his son Matthew is, and the team that Jeff put together are still there, and it's a great testament to the skills they've acquired over the last decade or so. For many, this will be the star lot, the Fraser-Nash BMW 319/55 Sports. Now, Fraser-Nash and BMW in the 30s were rival sports car manufacturers, but the trouncing that Fraser-Nash received on the 1934 Alpine trial was such that they decided to become BMW agents. So previous Fraser-Nashes had originally had their roots, if you like, in an Edwardian cycle car design with chain drive, actual chains to the fixed solid rear axle. This was the other end of the spectrum in terms of technology. This car has got an oval section tubular chassis, so it's much lighter than a conventional channel section. It's got an independent front suspension, it's got rack and pinion steering. This has got the 1.9 litre 6-cylinder engine, which evolved into the 328, which had more sophisticated overhead valve, and the BMW 328 engine went on to power all sorts of exotic post-war Fraser-Nash models, so the High Speed, the Le Mans Rec, the Targa Florio, to name but a few. It was also that engine which was used to such good effect by AC in the Ace Bristol and Asika Bristol sports cars. Now this is a rare beast. I believe it was one of only 26 made. First owner intended to use it to competition right from the off, so he specified it on wire wheels. It's got an amazing history file, just cram full of period shots of it on trials, hill climbs, circuit racing. The amount of fun the first owner must have had is just amazing, and it's come from a good home, this, a stable where the cars are enthusiastically looked after and enjoyed. Other end scale wise, we have here a pair of Bentleys, an Azure convertible. This is a second generation car, they just carried on evolving it. And there's an enormous amount of road presence for this car. I mean, you know, you put this next to a GTC, the sort of more modern equivalent, and the Azure just still has that extra grandeur about it. This is a comparatively low mileage example. I think it's about 38,000 miles. Great colour combination, and just, if you've got it, flaunt it. Next to it, we've got a Bentley Continental R. Now, this one is been very well looked after. I think there's only a gap of a couple of years in the service history. These can get a little edgy in terms of corrosion. This is in nice order. It just comes across as a well looked after, much loved car, and about twice the size of the MG N-Type Magnet in front of it. This is a car that was exquisitely restored by Chisburn Restorations. It's not had very much use because the vendor's been ill of late, but that wouldn't take much to get it going again. I mean, it's running and driving, but properly serviced and recommissioned. And again, a very pretty, rare 6-cylinder MG. A Shadow and a Bentley T-Series, and these still remain incredible value for money, given the what they cost. You know, you're not talking much more than well-restored MGB Roadster money for what was once one of the most expensive cars in the world. So, lovely, lovely things. T-Series, we're now in a situation where Bentley is arguably more sought after than Rolls-Royce, but when these cars were new, the Silver Shadow would have outsold the Bentley by about 11 to 1. In terms of rarity, although the Bentley is very rare, to find a low mileage late Lancia Fulvia 1.3S, a UK car, now that's believed to have done 20-something thousand miles, and given the lack of corrosion and the condition, I think that's pretty credible. It's got a wonderful 70s interior-exterior combination, this very vibrant green teamed with a sort of yellow upholstery, and it's just a delight, this car. Everywhere you look, it's just a lovely, lovely thing. Another car that's had a lot of work put into it is this Jaguar 240. Now that was somebody's vision of their preferred Jaguar sports saloon. So it's got the wire wheels, it's been completely retrimmed, repainted, and the late owner actually got as far as having a 4.2 engine overhauled to drop in there to give it a bit more grunt. But as a late Mark II stroke 240, this has got its original 2.4 in the moment, but it comes with that engine if somebody wants to increase the performance. Not that they'd managed to increase the performance to this level, even if it had a 4.2. Noble M12 GTO. Now this is amazingly being offered for sale without reserve. This was Lee Noble's signature piece, if you like, the M12. Really nicely engineered. I mean, fantastic engineer, Lee Noble. I wouldn't believe it, but it's Ford Mondeo based engine in this, turbocharged. But these are genuinely, in dynamic terms, up there with the Ferrari, if not arguably superior. And a very pared back, stripped back driving experience, which is almost the opposite of this Mitsubishi 3000 GT. Again, this is a rare thing. It's done just a smidge under 30,000 miles. UK car, I think it's 2 former keepers. This has been the H&H sort of event car for the last year or so. So my colleagues have done a few thousand miles behind the wheel. But this was a technological tour de force. There was, in the late 80s into the 90s, if you like, an arms race between the different Japanese manufacturers who'd all grown a lot in confidence and wanted to prove that they could do anything the European manufacturers could do just as well. So this has got 4-wheel drive, 4-wheel steering, active aero, 3-litre twin turbocharged engine, 6-speed manual gearbox. You know, it's a hell of a thing when it comes to technology. And it's appropriate in a way. It's sat next to a Porsche 996 Turbo, which is a similar recipe in that it's 4-wheel drive, 6-speed manual. Of course, the engine's in the back of this one, and these were about 414 brake horsepower as standard. They are still a very, very quick car, A to B, and much, much smaller than a contemporary 992 Turbo, so a little bit wielder down a country road. Next to it, a little bit more outlandish, is the 1978 Porsche 911 3-litre RSR Tribute. Now this was a standard 3-litre SC, and the vendor has transformed it. He tells us he reckons he's got over £100,000 in the car, and since buying it just to develop it. His daughter works for the Williams F1 team, which is why it's got these martini stripes on it, wide body kit, RSR style rear wing, just a resto mod along the lines of, you know, some of the cars that Tuthill has produced, or Singer, just that same sort of vibe of taking an original 911 and breathing on it. The most expensive car on the sale is this 1966 Aston Martin DB5. Now, a DB5 needs no introduction. This particular car is notable because it belongs to Andrew English, the motoring correspondent for the Daily Telegraph for the best part of 30 years. Now, he enjoyed it for some competition usage, and certainly should know and does know the difference between a nice handling car and a not so nice handling car. So this one has had some brake modifications. I think it's got a Harvey Bailey handling kit on it. Suspension's been tweaked slightly. When the engine was overhauled, it was taken out to 4.2 litres. It's had a recent retrim, so very much a driver's car, this one. And nice to see it not in silver birch for a change. So elegant machine. This is one of the sort of surprise lots, if you like, of the sale. 1992 Daimler 4-litre saloon. Most XJ40 generation cars have succumbed to age by now. They're looking tired, they're high mileage. This is a very, very pampered car. It was supplied new by Henleys of Chester. It's still got its Henleys of Chester number plates front and rear. It's got its Henleys of Chester complimentary umbrella, the original VHS videotape that came with it, all the handbooks, and it is stunning. The interior genuinely is showroom, as is the exterior. It's a beautifully, beautifully preserved example. So if you ever wanted an XJ40 and you wanted to be confident of going to a show and it being the best one there, that's a strong candidate. Next to it, Rover P5B Saloon. These were a great favourite, as you'll no doubt be aware, with government ministers, with Maggie Thatcher, very redolent of the late 60s through to the late 70s. Elegant, quick car. The B in the nomenclature stands for Buick. These had the 3.5 litre V8 engine that Rover took over from Buick and made under licence. Next to it, Lee Francis 14 horsepower Special Tourer. Now, this car's been rebodied, but just an elegant thing. And the 14 horsepower, it's a 1.8 litre engine. Funnily enough, that particular engine was designed by a chap called Harry Rose, and it had much in common with the engines that were used by Connaught for their early Grand Prix cars. Next to it we have a 1986 Mercedes-Benz 300 SL. This car, I believe, has had some attention from the SL shop. Classic colour combination, and these 107 series cars are just so usable. They really are. If you're looking for a classic that you can just jump in and enjoy and go wherever, keep up with modern traffic. They've got a lot to recommend them. Got a great section in here of contrast between pre-war cars and more modern sports cars. So wonderful Giorgetto Giugiaro designed Lotus Esprit, Series 3 car, so before the Peter Stevens redesign of about 87. This one needs a little bit of recommissioning, but in terms of that whole 1970s school of wedge design, great. Again, very striking in red with cream upholstery. Next to it, and again, amazing to think that this is a product of the 60s, that's a product of the 70s, the change in design language between those two decades. That's an MGC Roadster, so 3 litre straight six, very similar to a B in appearance, except for this bonnet bulge. Another flat nose, the only flat nose Morris to contrast with the two bull nose Morrises, but same generation. Flat nose came in a bit later. And this car's former award winner, again, older restoration, but good usable vintage car. Next to it is a Lagonda 1224. Now this is hen's teeth. I think there's less than half a dozen known to exist, and I think this might be the only saloon, so a real rarity, and just a lovely thing. Very sort of upright 20s light car design. Next to it we have this standard Avon Special Coupe. It wasn't just William Lyons with his SS concern that used standard chassis and running gear. Avon, or New Avon Coachworks, tried to diversify. They'd been the main coach builder for Lee Francis through the 20s as Lee Francis fell on harder times, so Avon decided to branch into other things, and one of it was a limited run of cars using standard running gear. Very stylish, sort of cutaway, no running boards there. Elegant little car, and well worth finishing the restoration that somebody's put so much work into. So that was a brief walk around of the 150 cars we've got on view here at Pavilion Gardens. As I've said, we will be staying open till 8 o'clock this evening. Doors open tomorrow morning, Wednesday the 29th, from 9 o'clock. The auction will start 1 p.m. promptly. You'll be able to participate via the telephone, via online bidding through our website, or in person. Please do come down. We've got plenty of chairs out, and it'd be fantastic to see you. Any questions, don't hesitate to contact us on 01925 210 035 or via email info@h&h.co.uk. Thank you very much.